Hey guys, welcome back to Simple Ground and another episode of Exploring the Homestead. Today I'm going to be looking at my yard and garden and how dry everything is. So yeah, my yard and my garden are very dry. It's a dry year and I'm optimistic and I'm actually kind of excited about this. Doesn't seem normal to be excited that your garden is dry and isn't getting anywhere, but I'll explain it. For those of you who may not know, my family and I just moved here. This is the first growing season that we were able to plant a garden and so forth, living out here on our homestead, and we're completely off grid. And yes, we have a well, but it gives limited amount of water. And we're running on a low water situation here. So we have enough for us, but everything that I give to the garden is, limited, metered out, and carried in buckets, right? So, watering pails, whatever it may be. So my garden on a whole has suffered a lot. And this particular summer is drier than normal. Usually there is more rain here in this area, and apparently it didn't come this year. But despite all that, I'm actually really excited. I'm learning all sorts of different microclimates and relationships between soil and water retention, and how to make that work in this area right here on my homestead. Idaho was a little different. I definitely had the things that I learned there, and many of them apply, as some of them don't. I'm also fascinated at the amount of native natural growth that doesn't seem bothered by the dry, and I've been figuring out why, So I've wandered over here into the orchard, and the orchard is the place where I have invested the most watering effort, because I've also invested the most money. And I'm pleased that most of the trees are just, they're not completely happy. I can't say that they're not curly leafed a little bit, but they're happy enough, and they're growing fairly well. They're getting established, which is always hard for the trees the first year. And these were big trees with small root balls. So the orchard's doing the best. It's getting the most attention. Surprisingly enough, my potatoes are doing a fairly good job too. Fairly good is a relative term, because even though they're green and they have leaf structure, they're definitely small. Especially the ones on the far side there. They're shorties. But really, I'm learning what can go all by itself here, and what can't. This part of the garden I've replanted a few times, and it has finally allowed the peas to grow. I first planted carrots and beets and other things over here, and then I replanted the carrots and beets and other things. Then finally I planted the peas, and the peas have come up. I have a row of tomatoes, and I've given them each a gallon jug of water that'll drip onto them. This has seemed to help them, but in the last few days of high heat, they're still getting pretty curly. So what we have in this area is my wife's flower garden. Not very many flowers made it up. In the back, you see maybe a couple of trees. There are filbert trees, hazelnuts. Over here on this hill we have some strawberries and some black currant. Along the front of our chicken coop trailer there's a lot of wonderful wildflowers that are growing and native grasses. So I mentioned that I'm excited even though things aren't turning out perfectly and I don't have a lush garden. And part of the reason is because I get the chance to experience the things, experiment, see how things are going, see what grows and what doesn't. But the other part of the reason why I'm excited is because I get to see on a low water situation how this will go by itself. My hope one day is to get things to the point where they will take care of themselves with the least amount of input from myself and grow naturally. I've been introduced to the concept of permaculture and I'm learning about it. Part of that's inspired by permaculture. I don't necessarily enjoy the buzzword because I feel like it restricts it too much. But the whole concept of creating systems that are autonomous, that grow natural with the environment, are exciting to me. I'm also aware that some input on abnormal years, like this one that's a little extra dry, can be necessary and can be good. So I'm excited about, I'm currently designing a water catchment basin or a pond that will catch and collect the water off of the roof of my house and store it for summertime. So all winter long, the calculation is somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 gallons of water that'll come off of our roof and land in the catchment pond. And then I can use that water to irrigate my garden and lawn if necessary. I'm also excited about all of these things that I'm learning about, amending the soil, adding things that'll hold the moisture, and then creating systems that will help shade the soil so that things don't evaporate and, you know, they can hold on to the water that's in the soil for longer. It's actually amazing that you walk back into some of the trees and the ground is still damp on top, even now with all this heat. You know, not every plant can grow in the shade, but that concept can be scaled, I'm sure, scalable and work well here or there, everywhere. So I have some plants started here for my fall winter garden. This is round 1 and I hope to plant a round 2 before the end of the month. I'll be transplanting these today. The idea is that the more mature plants will have a more developed root system that can reach the deeper water, you know, the deeper wet soil, and make it. And as long as they can make it a couple more months, the rain will be back and things will go all winter long. So I'm hoping to get this started, transplanted today, and more seeds started probably the end of next week. And they'll be up and ready to transplant as soon as possible. Technically, I should be able to grow all year long up here, depending on the plant that I'm growing. I guess it's a lot easier to take a poor garden when you can get more than one season out of a year, huh? It's not so devastating to me like it would be in Idaho to have nothing growing. Here are my chickens free ranging here. I guess that's how they are getting in and out of that spot. The careful observer would notice that there's only 3 chickens and not 5. We've lost 2 chickens and I don't know where they have gone. It's actually kind of sad to me. I've been all through here. You can tell it's definitely a good place to lose some chickens. I've been all through here looking for any remains, and I haven't seen the poof of feathers. So wherever they've gone, they're either still alive or they were taken a long ways away before they were eaten. So, sigh. Many of you have commented that it isn't if they're eaten, but when, and I know that. I've definitely raised enough chickens in my life to know that it's a when situation. We try our best to keep the predators out, and we also recognize the fact that the ones that survive are going to be a little tougher, and they can train the young ones. So these 3 are doing a really good job of coming in and out. Just a little sad that we've lost them. And really, it hasn't been a lot of days since the other ones have disappeared. There is a chance still that I'll see them again, though the chance is pretty rare right now. So this area that I'm walking through right now, I am planning to turn into a paddock of sorts. I'm planning on thinning the trees out, maybe even getting some sheep and goats after I've built a fence to help me with the project. And allow some of the trees to grow big and tall and shade the ground to help the grass grow. And have a spot for some animals near the house. I'm hoping to get to work on the fence later this summer. That's my plan. We'll see how it all goes. It might be a summer-winter thing. So getting around anywhere here is always a little bit of a task. Luckily for me, between the chickens and my dog, they've beaten some low paths, and as long as I act short, I can get around. I'll end this video here, and thank you all for watching. Having a homestead, having an experiment like this is just so exciting for me, and I'm excited to try out new methods of gardening, and I'm glad for the methods that I'm learning so far. Also, thanks guys for sticking with me. Few comments lately about video equipment and stuff. I do want to do some upgrades. Got a little more money coming in from ad revenue and stuff, which I'll put towards new equipment, better equipment. But stick with me for another month, maybe 2, before I get there. And thanks for your support, guys. This has been a blast, and I expect it to go on for who knows how long. So thanks for sticking with me, and thank you guys for taking this journey with me on Simple Ground.